going. Open up this. That's Discord. Forgot what I was doing for a second. There we go. Hello? Alright, looks like we're good and going. I'm just gonna leave my phone here so that way if anybody chats I can respond. So, my intention of this video is to explain some systems that I have put together here in Project Spark. I realize that the game's kind of dead, but so my intention is I'm going to explain these systems and I'm going to upload this video to YouTube. So, like I was saying, sorry, I know Project Spark's kind of dead. I know they kind of discontinued it 5 years ago or so, but, or did it come out 5 years ago? I don't know. They discontinued it, but they allowed you to continue working on your own. I know that the PC side is still kind of alive with SparkShare and the like, and I've always just been a big fan of it. So I figure what I'll do initially here is I will actually just launch it and show what's going on with the stuff, and then explain as best as I can how it all works. So in this, we've got our title menu here, which is going to pull your gamer tag, whoever you are, whoever player 1 is. The color is also whatever you're highlighting. The color is determined by what player number you are. So with the first player color being blue, it is blue here. So if you say no, it'll show you credits, but any button press will take you back to main menu. So you say yes. You can pick your gender. This is a character creation system. It doesn't matter which one you pick, obviously. So I'll just be a female. What path you choose determines like what kind of weapons and stuff you can equip, which I will also be showing in there, and I'll be backing out and coming back in and showing the differences between the three. I'm just going to start with the warrior. So stat allocation. So your stats will determine various aspects of your character. I have it set so you can subtract points. As you can see at the top, it goes up as you take those points away from the things, and they can all go down as low as 1, which will hurt that stat. At the moment, the charisma stat really doesn't do anything. It's just kind of a staple, in my opinion, to RPGs, so I included it. So and you can't go higher than 18 on any stat either. So I'm just gonna leave. So I'm gonna jack up my agility. I think I picked warrior, so we'll actually jack up strength. So yeah, so as you can see, I spawned in as a female. So there's a handful of systems that I'm gonna explain. I'm not gonna go too much over this whole bar thing down at the bottom. Really, it's just a bunch of visual elements more so than anything else. I mean, I'll brush over it when I'm going through the code, but the real thing here is that, so you got a health bar, mana bar, XP bar, and then your level is up in the top. So I have a couple enemies. Those enemies across the way are just normal. This guy has a ton of health and doesn't really respond, or he won't attack me, and that guy has insane damage and will one-shot me. So bumping into items will pick them up, and they will add them to your inventory. So pressing Y will open up your menu, as it were. So on this page, it has your stats. On the right side, those are the stats that I picked here. On the left, it shows your level, your current XP, your hit points and your mana. So pressing right bumper will take you to the next page. There's a blank page. I haven't put anything here. I was thinking I'd probably put quests here. I just haven't done anything with this particular part yet. Pressing it again will swap over to your inventory, and you can cycle through them using left or right bumper. So here's your inventory. I picked up those 3 weapons, like I said. So you can cycle through them with the D-pad. I'm a warrior, so I can't equip mage or rogue weapons. As you can see, you're not the right class. But you can see their damages on the right side, which isn't exactly accurate because the damage of the weapon changes. That's more their base damage. So you press A, it'll equip it. So as you can see, I now have the weapon equipped. Right. And then if you scroll through here, you see unequip is an option. So if you unequip it, I should probably make a sound or something to indicate, but now it's back in the inventory. But now it's in the 3rd slot, I guess. You can as you can see on the left side there, you can also drop. So I dropped everything, and then it'll plop them down on the ground. So as you can see, the damage is 26, 42, 75. This weapon doesn't shoot because warriors don't shoot, as it were. But so you got 26 and 42. So this here in front of us is a respawn post. Basically, when I enter into its range, it will save my respawn point to it. But I also have it set to drop XP the first time, which will give me each XP orb I have set to 5,000 XP just for demonstration purposes. So as you can see, I've leveled up. When I level up, the ring turns my color, which is blue. It'll also stay that color as long as I have not allocated my points. So as you see, I did 26 there, but if I increase my strength, it'll increase the damage of the weapon. Now I'm doing 29. And different things activate different, your different stats, as it were. So your movement abilities are based on your agility. So as of right now, I can only jump once, but for every 9 agility, you get an additional jump added. Do I have enough to? Yes. Okay. So we'll jump that up to 28. Which gets ridiculous really quickly, but it's more of a proof of concept. I haven't really even remotely attempted to balance out any of this kind of stuff. So like I said, this is a respawn post. The reason I created it, or the reason that I created him over there, was to show that it'll how it works. Basically, when you die, the screen goes black after a couple seconds. Press A to revive, which will then revive you at the place of your last spawn, which I will actually create a second respawn post to show that it works, that the spawn point changes, basically. I don't think that's it. Assemblies. I must have shot past it on accident. So I'll put another one over here on the left. So I'm gonna go ahead and go in. Yes, I'll go male, and I'll go rogue this time. Rogue is based on agility, kind of agility and intelligence. Because the shooting damage, I wanted to be able to kind of pseudo-balance it between the two of them. So if you go, now you can see I can no longer equip this. I'm no longer a warrior. I still can't equip that because I'm not a mage, but now I can equip the bow. So I'm going to go ahead and set my spawn point, level up. And so the base damage melee-wise of the bow is not nearly as high as the strength-based weapon, but the bow's shot damage will scale. I mean, all of it will scale. Actually, did that damage just go down? Oops, I accidentally picked up the base XP orb. Oh, I didn't pick it up yet. Get away from me. I can't outrun it, I'm pretty sure. Well, I guess if I get far enough away from it, it should stop chasing me. Nope, nope, there it is. Alright, I give in. It's gonna hit me and I'm not gonna get any XP. Oh, wait. Okay, I guess it won't let me pick that one up. Anyway, so actually it appears that the... Oh, there it is. Okay, so hitting with the fist initially, which I wasn't doing earlier, does less damage. But my medium attacks are now doing 32. But my bow shots are doing 56. But anyways, so I'm going to hit the respawn point. I'm pretty sure I already did, but... So here I go. I died. I respawn. As you can see, he's right there. So now I'm going to hit this respawn point, which... Oh, you know what? That's right. I had to make some edits to the base thing. For whatever reason, it stopped detecting my character as a player. So what I had to do was create a player's global set, and that's what now that's what determines it. One thing I forgot to mention as the warrior is I physically could not shoot anything. With the rogue having a bow equipped, you can shoot. Now I'm a mage, male mage. So now this spawn post here will work. There we go. And now when he kills me, it will spawn me there. Honestly, the spawn point one is pretty simple, I think. Like I said, I'll go over it. So I die, and I revive over here at the second one. So now that I'm a mage, yeah, I can't equip that. Can't equip that, but I can equip the thing. Equipping it gives me the ability to cast fireballs, which, damn it, I picked that up. Which will scale in damage. So right now they're doing 37. They're gonna attack me while I'm in my inventory. Whoops. I didn't even see the damage number on that one. 45 now. Another system which I haven't really mentioned, so I've been like freeform doing this stuff currently, but there is also a lock-on system. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of explain each thing piece by piece. I'm going to go with the easier system first, which, so, as far as, I'll start with the XP system. So the XP system is just these three things. So these are the XP orbs right here. So basically, all they do, they're constantly highlighted yellow, just because. So when they detect a player, it moves towards it, flying over land, until it gets right next to them, with minimum distance. When it bumps into them, it plays the sound that you collect it. It can overlap, so in case you... And then it increases that object, which is the player's XP, by 5,000. And then it destroys itself. So that's super simple. So then you got this. So with a countdown timer of 3, so it waits 3 seconds, and then it applies. So all allies of Team 8 get this brain, which is the XP drop brain, added to them, which is this brain. So what this does is it has a base value of XP. If XP drop is equal to 0, it adds 1. So any enemy that doesn't have an XP drop variable on them will gain 1. And then when the creature dies, for each instance of XP drop, it will create 1 XP orb above it, which will then seek out the player. So what this allows you to do is set specific XP values to each creature. So this one in particular, if you kill this one, it gives 20 XP. So all enemies already start with a team value. You just have to change it to team 8, and it will apply the brain. So as you can see, this has no XP orbs equipped to it, so they'll only drop 1 when I kill them. And then same with him, but I don't anticipate killing him. So that's the XP system. It's pretty basic. It works out pretty well. So the next up thing, I guess weapons. Well, I'll explain the weapons. Eventually, I'll get around to explaining the inventory system. So basically, once they spawn, so I have 3 different brains for my weapons because they are for the 3 different classes, basically. So that's not it. There it is. So I've got a test weapon agility, test weapon strength, test weapon intelligence. So they basically all look the exact same like this. They have all these things. So basically, when not equipped and not attached, if I bump into a player, it picks me up. The rest of this stuff, so agility weapons are added to my global agility weapon item set. The class requirement is 2, which is rogue, and then these are the equipment stat requirements. So I had them all set to 0. Just as an example, I'll add let's say 20. So now this will require me to have 20 agility in order to equip it. These stats all create a baseline for the weapon's damage, which will then be modified when you equip it. That's how you add your stats, or how you add damage to it using your stats, basically. So weapon damage L, M, H, so medium, light, heavy, and shoot damage. So it does all those once, and each of these weapons is the same except for they add themselves to a different global object set and have a different class base. And you can, for each individual weapon, you can add whatever, strength or whatever requirements. So let's put a charisma requirement on this one. Let's say you need 17 charisma and like 15 strength. And then the magic weapon, same thing, except intelligence and class requirement is 1. The one difference is that magic weapons have a weapon monocost, because what I intend to do is have different spells equipped to different weapons, or different wands, I guess. So this one being the fireball wand, as it were. So it costs 10 mana to cast, and we'll throw an int requirement on there. So, not 50. 15 as well. Alright, so we'll pop in to the game and I can show you the different, so I can show you that. So we'll go with the warrior, because I think I had the charisma and strength requirement. So we'll take our strength up to 14, our charisma, I don't know, and the rest into agility. So we don't have the stats to equip this this weapon initially. So as you can see down at the bottom now, it says its requirements, which is strength 15 and 17 charisma. If I try to equip it, it'll go from the top down, checking. So it's, hey, you don't have the 15 strength, so it won't let me equip it. And then so it's the same. First it will check the requirements, then it will check the class. Class is the last thing it checks, just because of the order that I coded it in. So as you can see, it can tell that I don't have the stats. So we're going to go grab those levels from the respawn post. And so what was it, 15, 17? So 15 strength, I'm gonna take my charisma up to 16. So now it's saying, hey, you don't have the charisma. It's checked that I have the strength, but now it needs the charisma. So I throw up the charisma. Whoops. And now I can equip it. And the same thing with these. Like I said, they check in order, so it's saying, hey, you don't have 15 intelligence. Well, when I have 15 intelligence, it'll be like, hey, you're not the right class. And the same thing will apply to the bow as well. Which I think I had at, what, 20? Hey, you're not the right class now that you have the agility. So that's how the weapons work specifically. Alright, the big one. Alright, so this is the part that's going to get a little dense as far as the coding goes. So this box here is our player 1 character creator. So this controls everything that player 1 sees when they first load up the game, basically. So this is it starting. Hey, team color is blue because team 1. Oh, I guess I set the team color to blue, not the player color. I had to display something. Anyway, so then it sets me to team 1. Title equals 0. Gender select equals 0. Gender question mark equals 0. And credits equals 0. And then global player 1 gen equals 3. So I've done a lot of editing of the code. I don't know how many of these variables I actually still have in the actual code, so this will also be an opportunity for me to see anything that I messed up and I kept old code in. So selection equals 0, and I have gender equals 0 again, so I actually don't need that because it's already right here. Okay, so it fades the screen, and this is what keeps the screen black the entire time during character creation. So while title's equal to 0, pressing A, it'll check if your selection is equal to 0, which means that you're highlighting the first option. It will take the title to 1, and it will take gender select to 1. So if your selection is equal to 1, which means that you're highlighted over the no, you're not ready, basically. Because the first thing that asks is, are you ready? So you say yes or you say no. If this is, are you on no? It'll take title 1, and it'll take credits to 1. Pressing up or down on the D-pad, if the selection is equal to 1, it will lower it by 1, or if the selection is equal to 0, it will increase it by 1. So this is basically just, because there's only 2 possible options, I just compiled it all into one little block here. So basically, pressing up or down will check if it's 1, it becomes 2, or it becomes 0. If it's 0, it becomes 1. This is just displaying, this is the display. At the bottom of the screen, hello, assigned player gamer tag. Welcome to the game, and are you ready? And so if their selection is equal to 1, it will display yes. No, it will display no as their team color, which is the blue. And yes will turn white. And if it's equal to 0, which means they're highlighting over yes, yes will turn to blue and white, and no will turn back to white. If gender select is equal to 1, it'll do a countdown timer. And then if A is pressed, basically it waits a second after after gen select is equal to 1, because you press A and it moves to the next screen. So I didn't want it to just immediately start, okay, you've pressed A, and then just blow through everything without letting you have a chance to see the options. So the countdown timer is there to basically space it out so it's not just rapid firing through the things and auto-selecting because you pressed A once. So gender is equal to 0. Global player gen equals 0. If gender was equal to 1, it equals 1. So this is basically the same thing where it's checking, are you on the first thing or the second thing? 0 being male, 1 being female. And it will make your global gender equal to that, basically. Same thing, because there's only 2 options, I compiled it to this. If you press up, up or down, it will flip them. And this is it displaying, so are you male or female? and while you're highlighting over male, it will be blue, and female will be white. If you're hovering over female, so on and so forth. If credits become equal to 1, which is if you had pressed A while hovering over no, it'll display the same thing. If any button pressed while you're on the credit screen, it will make credits equal to 0 and title equal to 0, which will jump you back to the title screen. So here are the credits. It's just me. When player 1 gender is not equal to 3, so it initially, at the very beginning, I guess, I made player gender equal 3. And the reason I did that is that's what changes us to the next page, basically, because the last thing that you'll do on this is pick your gender, which will then make global player gen equal either 1 or 0. Which, as long it does either way you pick, it will force it to the next page because it's no longer on 3, basically. So you move to the next page. This is where you pick your class. It gives you 3 options: fade to keep the screen black, once title equals 1, selection equals 0, and global class equals 4. So this is the same basic concept. The last thing you'll do on this page is select your class. This whole page is just class. So when you select your class, it will assign the number 0, 1, 2, depending on which class, which is not 4, so it will switch to the next page. So when title is equal to 1, if A is pressed, global player class equals selection. So as long as, so pretty much whenever you press A on this page, while this is active, it will make your class, or player 1's class specifically, this whole box is devoted to player 1, it will make player 1 equal whatever your selection is. So your selection starts out, I think, equal to 0, which would be the top option. Yeah. So it starts at the top option, which I believe is warrior. And so if you press up on the D-pad, it checks, is it at 0? Then make it equal to 2. So it rotates around, basically. You can press up at the top, and it will go down to the bottom. Otherwise, if it's equal to 1, lower it by 1. If it's equal to 2, lower it by 1. Right? So pressing up will go from 2 to 1 to 0, and then back down to 2. If you press down, same thing, just in reverse. It will check where you're at and go down accordingly, or rotate back to the top. What path do you want? And then, so if selection's equal to 2, the rogue will be highlighted, and the other 2 will be white. If it's equal to 1, the mage will be highlighted, the other 2 will be white. If it's equal to 0, the warrior will be highlighted. When you press A, like I said, selection number becomes your class, your global player class, and then it will move to the next page because this is no longer 4. So third page, we have your stats. So keeps it black. Pressing up and down will move cursor position by 1, or it'll either increase or lower it by 1. So this was a much more efficient method I found after I did the last page, basically. So basically, this just, if it's greater than 6, it becomes 6. If it's lower than 1, it becomes 1. So that way you can press. So this one won't rotate, but it will stop at the top and bottom. But it saves you a lot of coding when you have a lot of options. So I guess theoretically you could do cursor position becomes 6, or cursor position becomes 1, and it would do that rotation thing. I didn't. Anyway, so you got stat allocation, points left, as well as the variable of how many points you have left. And then you have, once it sets all the base stats, as well as your points left to 10, and cursor position to 1. So I just eliminated 0 from the equation to make things easier on myself. So position is equal to 1, it displays strength as your color. Otherwise, strength is just... It's supposed to be white, but I didn't specify. I guess white was default. If it's equal to 2, intelligence. So this is also a little bit more efficient way, rather than going each, having... You'll see that I do this kind of thing later, when I do the stat checking on the item requirements, I, super nest, 6 or 7 times deep. And I feel like this is probably a little more clean way to do it. So it checks the cursor position and it just highlights the stuff that's there. When your points are not equal to 0, cursor position 6 will be grayed out. What that is the continue button. You can't continue past the stat page until you've allocated all of your points. Not that it actually tells you that. I probably should put a little pop-up that says, hey, you need to allocate your points, basically. Otherwise, it'll be, I guess in large font? No, I don't know. Oh, it'll be highlighted in gray, or it will be smaller in gray. So when I have it highlighted, I guess I made this font bigger. Otherwise, so this is otherwise to this otherwise, with the points being left. So if you do have no points left, it will highlight continue in your team's color, which was blue, like I said, and then you'll be able to select it basically. So do-pad left, it will check where the position is, and if the strength is greater than 1. So it's like, hey, is it on strength? Is strength better than 1? Then it will increment your points left by 1 and lower your strength by 1. This is what allows you to suck those points back out of it until it gets down to 1, while also keeping the ability to, while adding them to your total point pool. Same thing, cursor 2. It's just the same thing for each stat, just repeating over and over, basically. And then, as long as your points are greater than 0, when you press right on the D-pad, it's just the complete opposite. Is it on 1? Do they have less than 18? Then lower your points and increase that stat. And it's that same thing just across the board. After a countdown, if you press A, so like I said, that's just that pause. When you press A, points left are equal to 0, and cursor positions equal to 6. Your global player 1 stats all become equal to the base stats that were initially created for this particular thing, and then you'll move on to the next page. It'll keep the page faded out. Global player gender, if it's equal to 1, it will destroy the male peasant. It will move the woodland peasant to the blue box there, so it'll just move her slightly over. It'll activate her brain, and then it'll move to the next page. And this is just the opposite if you picked male. It'll destroy the female, move the male to the box position, and it will activate his brain. Finally, it will destroy itself. So that is the character creation system. So once all that's done, then it'll activate the brain of either one of these. Their brains are exactly the same, but their brains have a lot to them. So this is, like I said, this is the dense part of it with all the code. All right. So first things first is that once they will turn themselves visible, because both of them are invisible to start with. Global player 1 will equal me. That didn't. Oh, right. So I had to assign it to an object in order to add it to the object pool. I was like, why did I do that? So, like I said, for whatever reason, it would not register that my players were players. So I had to create a group of objects and name them players, basically. So it does that, and then it moves to the next page. So here we have... Get back up to the top. So starting off, we have initially it will set locations. So like I said earlier, I wasn't going to go too deeply into the stats displayed at the bottom, but this is basically it. Basically just where they're located. So there's the health bar, the mana bar, the XP bar, 3 rings, a fireball, and so it's just those locations basically. And then the different locations here, like Mono Location 1, Mono Location 2, is just because I also have the location for the numbers that are on top of those things as well. So that's what all this is. It's just locations for all of those things. They're X and Y vectors basically. Next up is once your stat position will equal 1, and your XP drop equals level. So this is actually old code. I'm actually just going to delete that. So basically what I used to have it do was that based on your level was how much XP dropped, but I found it was just easier to either to just kind of globally have them do the thing. Anyways, so when you get hit by an attack, for the duration of 3 seconds, it displays the damage taken above you. Maybe it doesn't feel like 3 seconds. It feels like it just blinks for a second. I'm actually going to jump that up to 5 and see if that makes a difference, because it really feels like it just shows up and disappears. Same thing here. So this is on attack hit. It displays the damage above whatever you hit. So it's red if you take the damage. It's white if you're dealing the damage. If you were just healed, it displays on the bottom of the screen you got healed. I actually don't have anything in the at the moment that heals in-game. I could throw something in. And honestly, I feel like this... I should probably take this out. I should probably have this float above his head, actually. Because if I put it at the bottom... if I put it there... above... if I have it at the bottom, that's where the, I can't even think. My brain just kind of totally shut off for a second. Sorry. So that's where I have all the stat, or not that's where I have your health bar and all that shit that I was just talking about. So it'll overlay it, and it won't look good. I'm just going to change this to new text. So this is with the intention that healing items heal exactly 100. If you want to put variable, you just put the variable of how much they heal here, basically. And then a countdown timer just healed, and it will turn that display off. Actually, this might be something that I might consider doing for these floating damage numbers to make them last a little longer, because this keeps it on until the countdown timer, and then it turns it off. So I can force it to stay above my head for, you know, as long as I want. Anyways, it'll initially set your spawn point to wherever you're standing once. So that's just that way there is a spawn point for it to find, basically, for revival purposes. If you don't have, like, the revival stones or whatever. So this just lets it spawn wherever you have the blue box, basically, in your initial setup. So as long as your health is greater than 0, with a countdown timer of 10 seconds, you'll heal 5 hit points plus your constitution divided by 6. So this is basically just health regen. It's slow, but the higher your overall health, the faster you health regen. If your health is greater than your max health, it makes your... So this is just to keep your health from getting higher than your max health, basically. Which is definitely necessary if you run a health regen. Countdown timer, this is the same thing for your mana. Max mana is not a base thing for some reason, so I had to create my own max mana. And it's just your intelligence divided by 6 determines your... it determines your increased mana regeneration. If your health is less than 1, show menu equals 2. So show menu is my variable that displays all the stuff at the bottom. So in order to get that stuff to not show up when you die, basically, to have it disappear for a minute, I had to have show menu change its variable, because it'll only show that stuff at the bottom if show menu is equal to 0. After 3 seconds, it will display the A button. You know, what's weird is that it doesn't have the fade thing. Oh, the fade thing's down here. Okay, so this shows up when you die. The screen fades to black, it pops up you died. After 3 seconds, it will pop up with the press A to revive. Pressing A will take your position to your spawn point. It'll revive you, and then it will turn your HUD back on. When you press Y, it switches page. I'll come back to that. That's the menu. That's the whole next page is the menu. And show menu will become 0. Which... Actually... Show menu... Okay, so this is whenever show menu is equal to 0. So this is when it's displaying all that stuff. So now it's displaying all of those things that I was talking about. The rings, the fireball, your level, and all that jazz. So if your stat points are greater than 0, which means if you have some stat points, the ring in the middle will be your team color. It'll glow your team color, basically. Well, it won't really glow, it just turns blue. So this is just the follow me camera thing. My code is definitely jumbled because of the way that I was coding. Like, I would come up with one idea, and then I would just kind of tack it on the bottom. And then, like, I did all this stuff, and then I was like, oh yeah, I need a camera once I actually get in there. So this is once, it will set inventory highlight, left bumper, right bumper position, all these things get set to coordinates. Team equals 1, menu page equals 1, your level, XP, how much it takes to level. Your stats will become those global player 1 stats from earlier, as well as your class will become the global player 1 class from earlier. If your XP is greater than your level, after a fraction of a second, and then it'll hang on for another half second basically after that, your XP will become your XP minus your 2 level. This, I added this and this, so that way, what was happening before was I would just have your XP became 0. Basically, if you got more XP than was required to level, it would just discard that extra XP. So with this system, it allows you to level multiple times when you get a lot of XP at once. So it'll vibrate, it'll increment your stat points by 3, it'll increment your skill points by 1. I haven't done anything with skill points yet. I don't have any skills yet implemented into this system. That's something that I'm going to do later down the line. It'll increase your level, it'll increase your 2 level by your, basically 150 by level. So basically it's 150 per level to level up. And it'll keep increasing as you go up. And it'll heal your mana and health. So these are the base stats, basically. They're not balanced in any kind of way. But you got your max mana is your intelligence times 10. Your max health is your constitution times 15. Your base heavy damage is damage times 2. Your medium damage is your damage, and your light damage is your damage cut in half. And your damage is equal to your strength times 1.5. Your shoot damage is equal to your int plus your agility times 1.25. Same thing with your shoot limit, shoot frequency. All those things are your agility and your intelligence combined and then divided by a number, basically, or multiplied by a number. And then your shoot speed is your intelligence. I should have added this as well, but I didn't notice it. So that's another good thing about going to the code like this. So your ground speed is your agility divided by 5, your jump height is agility divided by 6, multi-jump is divided by 9, your ground acceleration is agility divided by 2. Fun fact, the multi-jump count also determines your base jump count, so if you go below 9 agility in the stat allocation, you won't be able to jump. So I feel like that's something that I should probably change. Yeah, probably. Anyway, so you got your ground turn speed, also based by your agility. So once, this will heal you and increase your max mana. So basically, with your base stat allocation, when it creates the character, your stats might leave you with different values than it would have initially thought, rather than it being the 10s or whatever. So this allows you to be at full health and mana, basically, from the start. Continuing, I just kind of re-upped on that. As long as show menu is equal to 0, if you detect an interactable, it'll highlight it and put an A button above its head. So this is the targeting system. If targeting is equal to nothing, pressing right trigger will just attack in front of you. Left stick will move. After a countdown timer, if you press A to interact with something, it will interact. Basically, I put a cooldown on your jump. That's basically all this is. And more so it was because when I would exit out of things, or before the old level system, when you would press A, it would confirm your skill points, and it would just close the menu. And so what would happen is I would close the menu and be jumping. So I also added that cooldown to stop you from jumping, basically. So if you detect interactable, you interact with it, otherwise you jump. If you press left trigger and it detects an enemy, your targeted enemy becomes the nearest enemy target. When you no longer have the left trigger held, it'll make your targeted enemy become 0. It will look at your targeted enemy, it will highlight them red, and as long as there's a targeted enemy, you will turn towards that targeted enemy. So that keeps you facing them as you walk around them, basically. And then further, as pressing right trigger while targeting will attack. Pressing left stick will move with strafing, so that will keep you walking sideways while staring at them, basically. So for each of agility weapons that you're equipped with, so every time that you have an agility weapon equipped, when you press right bumper, it will... I had some other stuff here. I copy and pasted this over from my intelligence weapons. This was the mana cost reduction, basically. But it doesn't cost anything to shoot arrows. It'll just shoot at the thing. Otherwise, if there is a targeted enemy, you'll shoot at it. Otherwise, you will not. You'll just shoot straight. You won't. Before, I was having a problem that it wouldn't shoot anything if you didn't have a targeted enemy because of this. So this let me shoot even when there's no targeted enemy. So the same thing with the intelligence weapons. Like I said, this is the same as the agility thing, except that it has the mana cost. If your mana is greater than its weapon mana cost, decrement your mana by its mana cost. If there is a target, shoot at it. Otherwise, just shoot in front of you. Pressing B will dodge with invulnerability, and it will give you a dodge slow, which basically somewhere. I wonder if did I get rid of the code for that? I don't know if I did or not. Basically, this is a cooldown counter on your dodge. So you have to wait 2 seconds before you can dodge again. Oh yeah, here it is, right here. So if a targeted enemy is further away than 15, it will unlock from your enemy, basically. So if you get further away from them. So this is the countdown timer on the dodge slow. It will decrement by 1 every 1 second, allowing you to then dodge again, basically. And because this is always 100, it's always lowering that dodge slow. Every time that it goes under 0, it just resets it to 0 to allow you to keep dodging. So for each of agility weapon that you have equipped, this is what modifies the damage of the weapon when you pick it up. So its shoot damage equals its base shoot damage plus my agility stat times 2. And, this is my agility stat divided by that, multiplied by... I actually think I'm going to switch this up to probably the intelligence thing, which I have it at... this is 1, this is half, and this is a quarter. Just because... I'm going to actually do that. Quarter. Actually, I'll do 1.5 on the bow. So 1.5, and then just do the agility stat, and then 0.5. All right. Because it's not supposed to be super good in close combat. Anyway, so for each strength weapon, this is doing the same thing. Strength weapons are really straightforward. They don't really. All you're doing is adding bonus damage to it, basically. And then this is intelligence weapons, same thing. It adds damage to all 4 categories. But as you can see, it adds a lot less punch damage, and it adds a lot more shoot damage. Alright, so that's the end of the character brain as far as that stuff goes. But then the next page is the menu. So when I press Y, it switches to this page. So it makes the menu page equal to 1. Well, actually, menu page is already equal to 1. But started to... your stat points left equals your current stat points, your strength stat. So basically, I created temporary stats. This allows you to edit them before confirming them without actually editing your actual stats. When you confirm them, they become your actual stats. But until then, that's what this is for. So when you press B, dodge slow will become 1. So that way, when you close out of the menu, you don't dodge. It fades. It fades the background so it's black. It displays your gamer tag up at the top, and it has the position of the left and right bumpers. B at the bottom right. If menu page is greater than 3, it becomes 1. If it's less than 1, it becomes 3. This is how you can just rotate through all the pages by pressing right and left bumper, basically. If right bumper's pressed, it de-increments it. If it's left bumper, it increments it. Menu page, when it becomes equal to 2, it will display A and X on the left side of the screen. This would be the inventory screen. So pressing A, if inventory highlight is equal to 0, it will unequip to inventory. So 0 is my unequip button, basically. I don't know why I have a duration timer here. I don't remember why I put that there. So if your strength is greater, or... Oh, okay, so... I really have no idea why I have that timer there, actually. But these here are checking if your stats are higher or lower than the weapon requirement. And, you know what? I wonder if this is why it only pops up for like half a second when it's telling me that I can't, okay, so I must have added this duration timer to make it last longer when it's displaying to me that I can't equip it. And I don't think it works because it only blinks for a second, which is definitely longer than 4 seconds. Maybe if I double the duration? Who knows? I'll set it to 10. Anyways, maybe that'll make them last longer. Maybe it's 4 seconds isn't long enough for it to check everything and then display them. So basically, it's checking all those things, and then for each thing that it can't do, it tells you, hey, you need that. And it'll check the highlighted items requirements. Otherwise, it will oh, I guess it does equip it. I don't know why I have these both here. When A is pressed... Oh, okay. It unequips whatever you currently have equipped and equips it, assuming that everything works out. Otherwise, it tells you that that it's not working. If you press X, it will drop the highlighted item. If you press left or right on the D-pad, it will increment the inventory highlight. If it's equal to 0, highlight equals nothing, and it will display inventory. That displays in the top. That displays inventory at the top, and it displays highlight in the center screen. So whatever highlighted item is. If inventory is not equal to 0, or inventory highlight is not equal to 0, it will display the requirements at the bottom. Otherwise, it will display unequip. So if it's equal to 0, it will show unequip at the bottom. Otherwise, it will show requirements, and then it will show all these requirements, which is it will show the requirements of this item, as well as the damage on the right side. If highlight class requirement is equal to 2, it will display the class requirement. So this is also displaying those requirements. This is just showing what class it requires. If your inventory is... If your inventory highlight's greater than your inventory count, your inventory highlight will become 0, and if your inventory highlight is less than 0, it will become your inventory count. So basically, it just rotates back and forth. For each item in your inventory, the current index will become equal to highlight inventory. So this is what highlight becomes it. So this is what assigns the inventory to this number, and then this will be represented by that number. This is what allows you to rotate through them by just changing the inventory highlight number. Menu page becomes equal to 1. This is your stat page, where it shows your stats on the left side of the screen, as well as the word character status. If stat points are equal to nothing, it'll just show your stuff on the right side. It won't do anything. If they're greater than 6, then it will show... Then this is the rotation thing. This will be where your cursor is highlighting. Pressing up and down on the D-pad will move that position up and down. And pressing left or right on the D-pad will... This is the same as the initial stat allocation thing. It's just this is now in your inventory rather than on its own thing. So once... This is also combining the... if you're highlighting that thing, it will be highlighted. I have them next to their respective stats rather than segregating each thing. So when you press A while hovered over continue or confirm, it will make your stats become permanent, and it will set your stat points to stat points left. and it will play a sound. I added that just because I wasn't because I used to have it close the menu, like I said. Now I have it just play the sound, so I know that it confirmed them. Then it'll display continue, and that's it. So that's the entire thing. That was a lot of. I know that was a lot of code. I think that's it for the systems, which it comes to a nice hour-long video. I'm pretty sure I can upload an hour-long video to YouTube. But yeah, you with these handful of systems is basically the start of. I want to do a kind of RPG game, but I'm not super good at like the world building or really coming up with a story or any of that other stuff. And because I don't have the ability to actively share with PC players and stuff, like I can't just upload my, stuff. This video will allow you to kind of recreate these kinds of systems. You're more than welcome to use these systems, edit them as you please. I really like Project Spark, and it bummed me out a lot when the servers and everything got shut down. But the fact that they do let you still, fuck around with the offline stuff is really nice. But I do believe that is it. I'm just going to do one last demonstration. I didn't really ever go and kill those people that I can think of off the top of my head. I'll just go rogue, whatever. Just to show the, that the... Oh, I don't have enough agility. Definitely got to increase that thing's movement speed. But I'll continue to work on this. I might throw another video for it later down the line when I have some more of the stuff, like the skill system implemented. So as you can see, the XP orb spawns and it comes to me. And these characters didn't have a base XP value. Wait, did he die? One other thing that I literally just realized, because this thing is invisible, you gotta go into this and make them visible, because they're only visible while it's being detected, which can cause, I guess, some issues. Not necessarily. Brain. I guess when created? Why aren't you letting... Oh. When... No, when... Ideally, you could have this... I guess you could just make it visible and just not have it, near where the players can collect, because if the players collect this, it will stop the XP from spawning. You know what, maybe it's just my render distance sucks. Another thing I'm thinking about trying to add is oh, you know what? That's something I mentioned this in the code, but I didn't actually display it. So like I said, you can't continue until you allocate your points. As you can see, it stays gray until you allocate all your points. Then it'll turn blue. It'll turn... It's real subtle as well, but it turns white when you do have the points allocated. As you can see, it's grayed out, and then it turns... Then it turns white. And that allows you to continue. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and end this. It's now basically been exactly an hour, so I will download this off my mixer and upload it to YouTube. Sorry that there's no editing. Sorry that it's a little rambly. but I hope that you're able to learn some stuff from this. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. And yeah, have a good one.